This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. I'm Hal Mayer. The Senkaku Islands are tiny rocky spurs, part of a scattering of islands between the northern tip of Taiwan and the Japanese home islands. They are rapidly turning into a flashpoint for war. Ongoing aggressive incursions by Chinese fishing boats, organized as a state militia, and a freshly militarized Coast Guard has seen tensions in the East China Sea flare. Now Japan and the United States are drawing up battle plans to enable their forces to fight together against any Chinese incursion. And their forces are engaged in their biggest combined war games, practicing to do just that. The biggest war games ever conducted around Japan are underway, demonstrating the interoperability of Japanese self-defense forces with those of the U.S. and Canada. The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan is the centerpiece of the Keen Sword exercise, which has mobilized more than 57,000 soldiers, sailors, and Air Force personnel. The Japan Times reports government sources are saying discussions are well underway to establish a joint response to any emergency on or around the uninhabited Senkaku Islands, which China calls Diaoyu. The plan being drawn up assumes such emergencies as armed Chinese fishermen landing on the islands, and Japan's self-defense forces needing to be mobilized after the situation exceeds the capacity of the police to respond. It's a rapidly looming scenario. China's Navy is undergoing an explosive expansion and modernization program. Beijing has all but consolidated its arbitrary claims over the South China Sea through its aggressive artificial island fortress building campaign. Its Navy and Air Force are venturing ever deeper into the Pacific and Indian Oceans. So the 2015 bilateral planning mechanism agreement between the United States and Japan is upping the ante. It was established to conduct bilateral operations to counter ground attacks against Japan by ground, air, maritime, or amphibious forces. The operational procedures for defending the Senkaku Islands will be completed by March. The United States is already bound by treaty to defend Japan in the event of an attack, and U.S. President Trump has recently said this treaty includes Japan's claims to the Senkaku Islands, despite previous U.S. government assertions that it wanted no part in the East China Sea sovereignty dispute. But now the militaries of the two allied states are discussing how to secure the contested waterway by force of arms. The full extent of Beijing's assertiveness has been revealed in freshly released footage and accounts of a near collision between U.S. and Chinese destroyers in the South China Sea. The South China Morning Post reports a Chinese warship involved in a close encounter had warned the U.S. Navy vessel it would suffer consequences if it did not divert out of the contested waterway. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've had a direct threat to an American warship with that kind of language, Chatham House International Affairs analyst Bill Hayton told the Hong Kong-based news service. The UN Convention of the Sea does not recognize sovereignty being established through artificial islands, and an international tribunal has rejected as groundless Beijing's claims to have historical ownership of the entire South China Sea. We are conducting innocent passage, the USS Decatur responded shortly before the Chinese warship cut across its bow, forcing the U.S. ship to dodge a collision. The Post reports Professor Ni Lexiong of the Shanghai University of Political Science and Law as saying, "The U.S. keeps testing our bottom line by sailing within 12 nautical miles. So by sailing close to their ship, we show that we are ready." Growing foreign interest in Asian security, including North Korea's development of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, coincides with greater Japanese willingness to back up its regional diplomacy with a show of military muscle, the Japan Times writes. Simulated combat is raging around the Japanese home islands. Jets are jostling for position in simulated air combat. Submarines are playing cat and mouse in the deep. Troops and tanks are rushing for shore in practice amphibious landings. Missile defenses are being put through drill after drill. Keen Sword remains an expression of the commitment of like-minded allies and partners to really see what we can do in terms of demonstrating advanced capabilities together to ensure peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The Chief of U.S. Naval Operations, Admiral John Richardson, told a news briefing. He added the U.S. would continue its freedom of navigation operations in the South and East China Seas to highlight its opposition to illegitimate maritime claims. And there shall be wars and rumors of war, Matthew 24, verse 6. This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. Thank you for watching.